Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Friday Reads. This is Friday Reads for February 25th. It's just gone actually midnight here, but it's so it's actually 26, but just I mean by minutes. So it'll be up about a half an hour late UK time for Friday, but I'm calling it Friday Reads. Just. Um, it was a pretty good week. I had read a number of books, some successful and some not so successful. For the Future History Project, Isaac Asimov. This is Isaac Asimov's I, Robot to Obey. This was the second. Yeah, that's right. Just kind of forgetting that. Yeah, this was the second novel of the trilogy, and I did a separate video for that earlier today. So if you're interested, then you can go to that video. Then I started, or I tried to read. Um, I do want to get this done. Rabelais and His World, Mikhail Bakhtin, because I read Gargantua and Pantagruel, but this is just it's so slog, and this is I'm still having trouble with some nonfiction, and this I'm having trouble with. So I got through the introduction. I think it was the introduction that was the biggest problem, and then as I started reading, I'm still in the author's introduction, but the prologue by other author, forward and prologue by other authors was just convoluted stuff. But anyway, I'm putting that on hold for now. And then I started reading for uh, February fantasy stories, dark fantasy, and this is Doorway to uh, Dilemma, 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 Dilemma. I think yeah, it's not dilemma. Yeah. Anyway, there's the title. It might refer to an actual story actually. Uh, no, I'm not sure what it's referring to be honest. But I started reading this. I read 50 pages. I read four stories, three stories, four stories. Let's see here. Let me find the stories here. Four stories, and first story thoroughly liked. The other three were okay. And I want to read another one, a longer one. It's 50 pages, at least one more. So I'm not. It's very late. This is the third week of February fantasy stories, and I'm late already with this. But I'm gonna read more of this tomorrow and put out a video tomorrow. Um, at some point tomorrow. So I'm going to devote Saturday to reading more of this. I don't think I can get it all done, but I can probably get several more stories done with that. And then I started, and well, I read Dahlgren by Samuel R. Delaney. It's a big book. In the SF Masterworks, it's just over 800 pages, and this was very generously and graciously, sent as a gift by one of my subscribers. So again, thank you very much. Something I wanted to reread for quite a while. I didn't have a copy. I read this back in 1990, I think it was. So 32 years ago. Wow. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't remember a whole lot about it. No, I remembered it. I remembered points of it, but I remembered it being an odd story. I guess I should say that. And it is. It is very odd. It is. It's been touted as an experimental novel, and there is some interesting things in it. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because it would take a video on itself to go through, and there's and it's more impressions, I would say. If anybody's interested in hearing more about this or my thoughts on this, not a review, just a discussion and my thoughts on this big book, do let me know in the comments, and I might do one anyway, but I'm not sure. But let's just say it was a book. It was an enjoyable experience to reread this. And this afternoon, I didn't do anything this morning. It was just sort of late afternoon and this evening. That's why I'm late with this. I read The Dark Eyes of London by Edgar Wallace. They're not very nice looking covers, I don't think, but I do like the House of Stratos. I guess they've published maybe 65 or 70 of his books. And I picked this one up, thrift, I think a charity shop, or what's it called here, charity shop. I think it was only like 25p or 50p or something like that. It's rough. It's got a crease down the spine, but it's workable. And it was originally published in 1924, I think it was. And there's no date in here, but I did look it up. And this is 2001 by House of Stratos. And this is my book to film. And the film is The Dark Eyes of London. This is sort of a special edition with a thing, a slipcase for it, or a sleeve. It in the American title was Human Monster, and it was done in 1939 with Bela Lugosi. So I haven't seen that in a long time. So as I read, because this was the first time I read the book, I can't remember. I think that if memory serves, the film is very different. But I'll have to reread that. Rewatch it, which I'll be doing tomorrow. So that was my reading for this week. For next week, I've got quite a few things. Well, I'm going to do the February Fantasy Stories Week 3 tomorrow video. And then on Monday, definitely Monday, so it's the last day of the month, I will do the Week 4, which is Urban Fantasy. And for Urban Fantasy, I'll be reading Sunday. Or maybe even start it Saturday. It's a reread. It's very short. It's like 170 pages at best. Well, 190. So it's an easy read for an afternoon. It's the Casebook of Carnacki, the Ghost Finder, by W.H. Hodgson. And this is one of the Wordsworth editions. And it's got an introduction by David Stewart Davies. And this was done by them in 2006. Originally, they're short stories, so I don't know what period. Edwardian, I believe. So there's 9. I think there's 9 short stories. 9 short stories. That's 190 pages. So this will be a fun reread. I know that will be. I really enjoy them. Like I say, the dark fantasy one, there was some good stuff in there, and I'm hoping to hit a few more that are really good. And then for next week's is the end of the iRobot trilogy by Mickey Zucker Reichart. And it's thankfully a bit shorter. It's 350 pages. And then also, because March is starting, 2 things are starting. March Mystery Madness and the March of the Mammoths. Now, I've only got one for the March Mystery Mystery Madness. One book. It's a really rough mystery by Isaac Asimov. It's his first one, and originally it was called Death Dealers, and it's The Whiff of Death. It was reissued. It was originally published in 1958. It's very short as well. It's like 157 pages. You know, if it even starts on page 1. No, so it's 150 pages. So it's a very short one, And I've got his Murder at the ABA, but these are all ebooks, as well as the 6 case books, more or less you want to call it, of the Black Widowers, their short stories. And it's the theme of March Mystery Madness is 2 by 2. So I'm doing 8 books. So it's 2 by 2 by 2. That's the best I could do, come up with. So yeah, so I'll be doing those over the month, but I'll be starting next week with those. And also March Mystery Madness, and this is an update because I'd asked, well, I'd already had this one picked out to read, and before I even thought of March Mystery Madness, but this is sort of a adjunct to the books that I'm reading with Scott Bryant, the Bookish Bryants. He's reading a lot of big books in the year, and I'm reading, I think, 9 of them with him, I think. This and Don Quixote, I think, are 2 that I'm not. And Don Quixote's going to be in June, but this will be next week. I'll be reading this. It might get pushed over into the week after. It depends when I start reading this. It is, I think, 900 pages almost. No, it's just over 800 pages, but there's lots of notes. Like it's 900, I think, with the notes almost. So, and this is a reread as well. This is obviously the Penguin Classics. It's the Cameron Giovanni Boccaccio, or Boccaccio, however you want to pronounce it. And this was first translated in 1972 by G.H. McWilliam. And this is the second edition, Penguin edition. And that was reprinted in 2003. Yeah, so this is a reread, so this will be enjoyable to read. And all these for the March Mystery Madness are going to be sort of book to film eventually, because Paolo Pasolini did the Decameron, part of his the Life trilogy. I don't have that yet. I'm hoping to get that shortly. So this will be a book to film, but it's not going to be in March. I think I'll intersperse these probably. I'm not sure. Maybe I will do them in March. I'll have to see how it goes, because the thought was maybe to try some mystery stuff as well for my book to films, because I'm also, I didn't get it. It's up here. Also, my book to film for next week, because it's beginning of March, is going to be The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. And this is the Indicator sort of standard edition without the booklets. First Men in the Moon. And that'll be the first, because every first Saturday, more or less, the first book to film that I'm going to do every month for this year or at least while we're doing the Future History Project, is going to be science fiction. So that's next week's. So maybe the week after I might do the Decameron if I can get it. And then in a couple weeks ago, I asked to see, I had 6 books. I had Little Dorrit, Vanity Fair, Daniel Deronda, Bleak House, Middlemarch, and Tom Jones, the Foundling. Not the singer. And I asked to number them 3, because I figured I might be able to do 3. So the one that got the most votes, I didn't actually count them. I just put ticks on for number 1. Number 1 for most was Bleak House. And this is the newer edition by Penguin Books, edited with an introductory notes by Nicola Bradbury and preface by Terry Eagleton. And originally published in 1853, and the first Penguin publication was 1971, and this edition was 1996, and then reprinted with a new preface in Chronology 2003. And this looks like it's the 36th printing they've had of this, so it's sold well. And that is a big one, a fair size one, and it is close to 1,000. It's 1,000 pages, you might as well say. So I think that's the biggest one. And then number 2 was Middlemarch by George Eliot. And that is 900 pages, you might as well say, or 850 pages. So that'll be the 3rd week that I'll be reading this in March. And if I still have the stamina, I will be reading, these are all rereads actually, but rereading Henry Fielding, The History of Tom Jones, A Foundling. And that comes to, almost 1,000 pages as well. So we'll see how all these go. These are pretty dense, as you can see. There's not a lot of dialogue to speed things up. So we'll see how that goes. So that's an update on the March Mystery Madness. So, but for next week, as I say, I'll be reading The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. That's the book to film. To Preserve. Yeah, that's right. To Preserve is the 3rd of the iRobot trilogy by Mickey Zucker Reichardt. And I'll be reading Giovanni Boccaccio's The Decameron. I will be reading Isaac Asimov's A Whiff of Death, plus another, it'll be I'm not sure, I'm going to read them, I'll read all the Black Widowers together, so I'll read this and probably the Murder at the ABA, and also, finally, the Casebook of Karnaki, The Ghost Hunter. So that's my reading for next week. It's quite a full plate, but as I say, Decameron might tip over into the following week because March doesn't start until Tuesday. So, but anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. And as I say, if you are interested in hearing me blab on about Samuel R. Delaney's Dahlgren, then please let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do if I can make it coherent. Actually, if I don't make it coherent, that'll be very like the book. Anyway, I will see you next time, BookTube. Take care.